Well, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Harry Brelsford from SMB Nation. Depending on where in the world you're at, we're coming to you primarily from the West Coast today, Bainbridge Island outside of Seattle, Sacramento, California. Hey, Carl, before I go too far, before I even introduce you, I do want to thank you for the Sacramento Kings moving to Seattle for our new MBA. So I just, before we go any further, sir, thank you.
Well, the best news for us is we got rid of the Maloofs, and the best news for you is you don't have to take them. So it works out well for everybody.
There you go. There you go. So, Karl, we'll come right back to you in a minute. Folks, if you're on the East Coast, it's early afternoon, and, of course, if you're in Europe, it's the late afternoon, early evening. So thank you for joining us for our weekly webinar. This is a total content webinar, so you're really going to appreciate it. Karl Palachuk is a well-respected analyst, subject matter expert, and all-around SMB 150 kind of guy in the channel. Speaking of the SMB 150, the voting for our contest has been extended until late February, so go to smb150.com to vote for the SMB 150 of your choice, and Karl and I are judges along with some other unbiased and neutral people who are helping that process. The awards dinner will be at our spring conference, May 3 to May 5 at Microsoft Redmond, so just a few months out on that. I'll make mention of this all at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, though, let's jump right into it, Karl, because I think you're going to tell us how to basically transform our lives in 60 minutes. So, Karl, welcome aboard. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me. And, you know, I want to just make sure people understand the beginning of the year is always a great time to start over, but you know, any time is a good time to start over. If for any reason you decide, you know what, I just want my life and my business to be a little bit different, then I think you just need to go ahead and get started. What we're going to talk about today is a way to look at your business that, you know, in many ways, you've heard a lot of this stuff before, but I want to put it together in a slightly different way, a different perspective, and maybe energize some people to really push start their business so that 2013 is a huge, huge, huge opportunity to go big. So first of all, if you don't have the handouts, I want to make sure everyone goes and gets the handouts. Just go to smallbizthoughts.com/events/makeover.pdf. There's no login or passwords or anything. You'll get the PDF immediately. If you follow me on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, that link is there now, put up within the last 20 minutes. So please go get those handouts, mainly because I want you to be able to take notes unless you're driving. So let's talk about what is your business about and why does it exist. And, you know, a lot of us, we got into this business because we said, hey, you know what, I need some money. Hey, I'm pretty good with computers. Hey, I can charge $120 an hour. Hey, these people like what I do. And pretty soon it's, hey, I'm working 40 hours a week. This is pretty cool. Hey, I'm billing 20 hours a week. Hey, I'm working 50 hours a week. Hey, I'm working 70 hours a week. Hey, I'm still billing 20 hours a week. And pretty soon, hey, I'm stressed out. And hey, this isn't as profitable as I thought it was going to be. And hey, this is a lot more work. And hey, I haven't gone fishing in so long, I don't remember where my tackle box is. In your business, it is perfectly okay for you to be selfish. And here's what I mean by that. Your business exists to serve your purposes and your goals, and I mean you personally, you and your family and the people who rely on you. And you know, some of you may know that I'm involved with the Pocket MBA program from SMB Nation, and I teach class number 6, and it's kind of the wrap-up of everything else. And one of the things Harry and I decided to do with that is we're going to finish the class with a change plan. Literally, here's how I'm going to take everything in this class, all the things I learned about class 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to move forward to completely reconfigure what my business does. And everybody can do that. And obviously, ongoing education is important, and we all need to do it, and it needs to be a permanent part of our lives. But at any time, you can say, you know what, I'm just going to reorganize my priorities, and I'm going to make this happen. And so, you know, I can't promise that you're going to hear anything amazing and spectacular in the next 45 minutes, but I do want to give you a new perspective on how to approach your business and make it change very quickly. And, just a fair warning about work, nothing that I encourage you to do here is easy. It always sounds easy when somebody else says it, but in fact, it's work. Sometimes it's hard work and sometimes it's stressful work. That's why they call it work. This is your job, right? Think about it this way. If you do nothing different in the next 12 months than what you did in the last 12 months, then a year from now, you're going to be exactly where you are now. You know the old maxim, the actions that got you here aren't going to get you anywhere else. So as long as you're going to have stress and you're going to have hard work and you're going to have to work your tail off in the next 12 months, you might as well refocus what you're doing so that you achieve exactly the goals that you want 12 months from now. I have a handful of coaching clients that I work with, and I'm amazed at the goals that they have. 2 of them have plans to move their entire business to another state in the next 12 months. 2 of them are selling their business and need to reformulate some of the ways that it works. I mean, these are big, big goals. These are things where people can look at it and say, I need to completely revise things. Yes, sir.
Karl, so apparently my self-promotion on Facebook of the bucolic lifestyle on Bainbridge Island worked, and you have 2 clients that are relocating to Bainbridge Island.
No, not exactly, but close.
Okay.
One of them's going to be close.
Okay, please continue.
So, all right. So we're going to look at the big picture, and we're going to start with a big overview, and then we're going to get into some of the specifics. So here are kind of the big view of the steps that you would take. First, you need to look at it on a very, very personal level. Who are you personally? Think about who you've been in the past. You've been a student, and you've been a graduate, and you've been a professional, and you've been a technician, and you might have been a parent, and certainly I hope you've been a friend to somebody. You've been a professional in the business. You've been part of your community, part of your religious organization. Whatever it is, you bring all of that with you as you begin to go forward into the future. And think about now, who will you become? And the line that you get to draw is today. The line isn't 6 months from now. It's not after you reach the next goal. It's not after you reach the next milestone in your business. It's not after you reach 250,000 or 500,000 or $1 million in sales. The line is today. Today is the beginning of absolutely everything. And so you don't have to wait to redefine yourself. You can start right now.
Hey, Karl.
Once you think about who you are, then you think, yeah.
Can you really quick repeat that link again? I've got a bunch of people asking. They want to pull up those slides and print them off during your presentation, and they need that link again.
Okay, it is, let's see if I can bring it up super fast, smallbizthoughts.com/events/makeover.pdf. All righty.
Thank you.
So then you think about, who are your clients? And again, past, present, and future. When you think about who have you served in the past? Have they been small clients, big clients, doctors, lawyers, a variety of people, and so forth? And when you think about where you're going in the future, think about where the opportunities are. If you've heard of the whole red ocean, blue ocean, many of us have been afraid that we're in a red ocean. Oh, managed services, everybody's doing it. Break fix, everybody's doing it. IT consulting. Where I live, near the Bay Area in Sacramento, we have these huge companies, NEC, HP, the services for Apple are here. So these people hire and fire 1,000 people at a time. When they lay people off, 1,000 at a time, they all become IT consultants. Then when they go back to work, they leave all of their clients stranded, right? So Robin Robbins, bad date letter works really well in this area. But when I look forward, I think, well, do I want all these people who who hire and fire technicians every day, or do I want to be more focused? When we look forward, one of the great blue ocean strategies for our business is to look at who is going to be regulated in the future and choose them as your clients. And we see that in finances, huge, huge, and healthcare, obviously, the whole HIPAA thing, that's been huge for the last couple of years, and it's going to be even bigger going forward. But it doesn't matter what your niche is. Anything that you niche on can make you more successful, but you have to choose to do that. So you need to define who you are, what you want out of life, then figure out who you want your clients to be. Then, obviously, the next step is figure out what products and services do you sell, and what do you want to sell. Think about this cool stuff that's out there. It's perfectly okay, like I said, to be selfish, to say, you know what, I want to sell cool technology. I don't want to ever install another printer driver as long as I live. I want to pick some line of business app where I can really excel and I can help people in a specific area. Maybe it's accountants, maybe it's attorneys, whatever. Anything that you want to do, you can choose to sell just that. And one of the biggest fallacies in small business consulting is the idea that you can't niche because you need to have the money. You have to take this little job. And one of the biggest things I hope that you learn the longer you've been in business is that you do not need every nickel that you see. You don't have to pick up every client just because they showed up. Somebody contacted us the other day and said, my server is literally broken. It is down. I'm out of business, been out of business for 3 days. I absolutely have to have some help. And it's like, I'm sorry, if you want to sign a service agreement, I will help you. But I cannot leave dozens of clients who have agreed to put their entire operation in my hands in order to give you 2 days of complete and absolute 100% attention just because you didn't have a service plan and you didn't plan, it'd be nice to have a whole bunch of money all at once, but in the long term, I need to look at the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I earn from clients who have signed service agreements. So I need to keep that in perspective. So you need to draw a vision, and even if today you don't know how to get there, it doesn't matter. Draw a vision of what you want yourself to be like, what you want your business to be like, what you want your clients to be like, and what kinds of products and services do you want to sell. Because I bet most people are going to say, I would give anything to stop living month to month trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my rent, how I'm going to pay my mortgage, how I'm going to feed my family in the next month. Wouldn't it be great to say on the first day of every month, the light bill is paid and the employees are paid and my retirement has got a payment made to it, right? What do you want to have and what terms do you want to have it on? Write that out as the ideal, and don't stop yourself just because you have preconceived notions about the way things have been in the past. So when you take this combination, you, your clients, your services, the combination of all of those is defined in your service agreement. Your service agreement says things like, we get paid in advance, right? We charge a flat fee for these things. We charge hourly for these things. We charge this rate, and there aren't any discounts. We have these terms of when we will be paid and when we send you an invoice when you will pay us. And so many people in our business resist having service agreements, and I just encourage you to stop resisting that. It's almost irrational. If you hired me to say, oh, I have an emergency and I need some help with something, Karl, can you help me? I'm going to have you sign an agreement. And you're going to sign it, and you're not even going to question it. It'll take you 30 seconds to say, okay, and then you'll sign it. So why wouldn't your clients do the same thing? Your clients sign an agreement for when they need their refrigerator repaired, when they want their windows cleaned and the floors vacuumed and their internet service provider and their Xerox repairman. Everything they do in their life has a service agreement except you. And if you put one in front of them, they would just sign it, period. I've never heard of a client saying, oh, no, I don't sign anything. Really? Really? How did you get a mortgage? How did you get a lease? How did you get your car? You sign stuff every day. Sign this. You know, they have monthly fees for Salesforce.com. They have monthly fees for their Intuit Online. They have monthly fees for all kinds of stuff. and you're just going to become another monthly fee. But it means you have to see yourself as that, and you have to just stop questioning it. So we're going to look at step by step how you would do the total consulting makeover. And we're going to start with, what came before today, right? And this is the biggest problem people have, is they look at their entire life and their future based on their past. And I want you to have a different perspective on the past. The past is not a force that controls your life. The past is simply a thing that exists. It's where you came from. And when you say, well, I got here by supporting Break Fix. I got here by supporting little clients who need help every day. Okay, that's great. That's exactly where it belongs. It belongs in the pile of things that say, that's how I got here. I got here. Another perspective is, I got here by making mistakes. I got here, I learned how to handle a hard drive by breaking one while I was installing it. I learned how to install a motherboard by burning one up, right? I learned how to install Windows by doing it wrong 15 times. I learned how to configure a small business server by doing it wrong and then doing it right. I learned all kinds of things in the past that only helped me get to where I am today. And serving small clients and doing Break Fix and doing things in a way that I wouldn't do today is how I got where I am today. And I hereby give you permission to ignore the things that got you here and put your focus on the things that will get you somewhere else. You love your clients, and yes.
Yeah, if I could add just an observation, and I can't remember the name of the book, but basically read a book recently within the last year where the gentleman asserted it takes 10,000 hours to master something, and he talks about why children in Brazil are so good at soccer, why Bill Gates was so good so young, that kind of thing. And the more I thought about it, the more I got it. If you think of a lawyer, you have law school, and then it takes a couple of years for a young lawyer to get up to speed. So 10,000 hours is not too far from the truth. And perhaps you and I could add that up and recount the same thing. I mean, when you first started working with computers, I just speaking for myself, it started in the mid 80s and it's probably the early 90s when I really became good at it, and so that probably was 10,000 hours. So the only thing I wanted to add was I think you can certainly honor your 10,000 hour investment and leverage off of that. I know you're not suggesting that people engage in a career change and start a new 10,000 hours.
Oh, no. No, in fact, I mean, you know this, that it doesn't matter what your experience is. You got experience in DOS, guess what? That helped you learn Windows. You got experience in Windows, that helps you to learn Linux. It all builds on everything else. So that experience never goes away. You just got to not be bound to it and say, oh, I only know DOS, so I'm going to install DOS. That would be a mistake. You use it to build on, not to help it keep you back. So
yeah,
I agree completely.
Hey, Karl, I want to tell on myself. I was having some difficulties earlier on the visual side. I'm now in the webinar viewer. Sir, just want to confirm, is the slide you have on this Berkeley 1960s psychedelic thing that says your total consulting makeover?
Oh, yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I
so
thought I was having a flashback. Yeah,
all
I thought I was having a flashback. Okay, thank you, Karl.
Well, I'm glad you're not having a flashback. So, so when you think about, where you came from, all that stuff that came before, really honestly, what I want you to think about, and I'm about to tell you to make lists, but the first list that you want to make is all of the things I believe that might not be true, right? Because you put on that list, my clients won't sign service agreements. I can't sell managed services. Nobody in this area wants to sell managed services. There's all kinds of things that you tell yourself. And when you think of any single thing where where you want to argue with me and say, but that doesn't apply to me and that's not true and here's why I can't do that, write that down and spend time with yourself trying to figure out whether or not those things really are true. So when we look at where we are today, and look at doing a makeover, here are some prerequisites. The first one is, and this is the hardest one to accept, I want you to accept absolutes, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But what I mean by absolutes is you need to be able to basically step off the cliff. You need to be able to say, there are things that I absolutely will do, and I will commit to them, and I will make them happen, and I will not look back. I will give this 12 months. I will honestly and sincerely jump in and make it happen, and I will not question this decision for 12 months and see how far that takes you. Related to that is to be completely committed, and by completely committed, I mean that you are going to draw some lines and make some rules, and you're not going to break them. And I'll give you a perfect example. Many years ago, I built my own machines like most people, and at some point I realized, wow, when I sell a pre-configured machine by a brand name company, it has a lot fewer problems over the course of 3 years. And so I started selling HP. And every once in a while I'd be talked into another company or a third party or a system that I would have to customize myself. And I began to realize in my head, every time a muffin fan went out and it cost me all of the profit for that entire computer, hey, note to self, stop doing that, right? Learn the lesson that I will only sell brand name computers with a 3-year warranty. And guess what? The more and more I learned that lesson, the few opportunities there were for me to sell anything else. And now it never occurs to me to build my own machine or to sell some off-brand. I only sell brand name computers, and I'm 100% committed to that, to the point where I literally never, ever, ever consider selling anything else. And that has dramatically improved the profitability of my business. And there's 1,000 things like that, but you have to commit to them. And make lists. This is a picture of Ben Franklin. The reason Ben Franklin and lists go together is he has this great advice about how you make a decision. And you make a list of all of the pros on one side and all of the cons on the other side, and you add them up. And that allows you to evaluate things. And that's a habit I want you to get into. If you ever see me when I'm not up talking to people on a stage, I'm usually carrying a piece of paper, and I have lists and lists and lists. I have little yellow tablets all over my house. I have them all over the office. I live by making lists that help me make decisions about, what do I want to do with a marketing campaign, what I want to do with clients, what I want to do with all kinds of things. So make those lists. Again, if you were one of my coaching clients, this would be the 9 millionth time you heard me say, well, you should make a list. So what that means is you need to stop making excuses. When you make some of the decisions we're about to talk about, I need you to literally make a decision and start moving in that direction and stop questioning yourself. Many people have analysis paralysis. They make the list, but then they never stop making the list. They never look at that list, and they never start evaluating it. They just keep making lists of why, yes, pro and con, pro and con, pro and con. You got to make a decision, and then you have to stop making excuses. And when you look at the big, big, big advice, one of the lists I would have you do is look at the advice that you've heard from Harry Brelsford and Eric Simpson and Robin Robbins and, Karl Palachuk and Matt Makowitz and everybody you've ever heard in your life who stood up on a stage at S&B Nation and told you, you should be doing this. Make a list of all of the things you've been told you should do 10 times, 20 times, 30 times that you're not doing. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Are you taking credit cards? If you're not taking credit cards, I 100% guarantee you're losing money. If you are not signing service agreements, you are losing money. If you are not doing at least some managed services, you are losing money. If you are continuing to deal with very small clients and not moving to bigger clients, you are losing money. So those are examples, but there are lots more things. You need to stop making excuses about why the advice that you've heard 100 times doesn't apply to you and your business. And in a lot of ways, that means you got to get out of your own way. You need to spend time evaluating, again, the truths that you believe and determine whether or not those things really are true. So when we look at the prerequisites, when you look at what you need to do, you need to accept some absolutes. You need to be completely committed to the decisions that you make, and you need to make lists so that you can begin execution. So let's go through these in a handful of steps. We're going to go through 5 key things that you need to do. The first step is when we talked way back about how you begin with you personally. I mean you personally, you as a human being. And you need to recharge your batteries. See the little robot recharging his batteries? You need to sit down and have some quiet time. And everybody has excuses of why this doesn't apply to them. But guess what? It does apply to you. And I don't care how ADD you are. Now that you know that, right? Write down on your piece of paper, I am ADD. Okay, great. That's not an excuse. That's just a thing that helps define who you are. And now that you're aware of it, you can address it. So stop making it as an excuse and make it simply a thing that exists. Now, what I mean by quiet time is, for some people, that's prayer. For some, it's meditation. For some, it's literally taking 5 minutes without the headphones on and thinking about what you're going to do that day. The most successful people, there's a book about like what the most successful people do before breakfast, right? Think about, what are you going to do today? How are you going to focus your day? What are you going to work on? What kinds of things are you going to do? You know, when I get up, I decide, hey, am I going to wear this shirt or that shirt? Partly based on who I'm going to see today. If I'm going to see coaching clients by Skype, I wear, one kind of clothing. If I'm going to go to a client's office who's an attorney, like today, and we're going to do a roadmap meeting with an attorney that earns $450 an hour, guess what? I'm going to dress a little bit nicer than I did yesterday. So you got to plan your day. Now, for me, I think everybody can commit, whether they believe it or not, they can commit to 15 minutes a day where you sit down and you think about what you're going to do today and force yourself to that quiet time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Carl, I have no problem with me time, and in fact, my wife sometimes thinks I only think of myself, so I'm totally on board with me time. So You're preaching to the choir, brother. Please continue.
So, and you have, Harry, more than most people I know, actually has a man cave. He actually has a place to go. And, if you've read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, one of the things there is the different ways that we deal with information. And so, guys actually need to go into their cave and, I don't know if it's spelunkering, but you need to have that time where you sit and think about, what do I do next and what's the big picture? And sometimes that quiet time is spent on your business, and sometimes it's spent on your personal life, and sometimes it's spent on the community or all kinds of stuff. But you need to define, like, what do you want out of all of this? Do you have a bulletin board in front of you with a picture of the house you want to own or the car you want to own or the number that you need to retire? Do you have some goal somewhere that is the reason you go to work? Because I'll tell you what, if you don't know why you're doing any of this, you need to start over. You need to decide whether or not you want to do any of this and whether any of it is worthwhile. It's funny, I've reached the point in my life where I can actually see the end of the road, right? I'm not going to live forever, and I now have a very different perspective on what I need for retirement than I did 20 years ago. So, how you look at that varies over time, but you have to look at it. You literally have to stop acting and start thinking about what your life is going to look like so you can create it that way. I made amazing changes in my life in the last 12 months. Based on last January, I sat down and I said, I want to write more, and I want to speak more, and I want to train more, and I want to travel more. Well, I didn't travel more because I travel a lot anyway, but I got a lot done. And it's only because I wrote those things down and I stuck them on a sign, and I reminded myself every day, those are the guidelines about how I lead my life. Does this add to or subtract from the goals that I want? Then you do the same thing with your business. where do you want your business to be in 10 years, in 5 years, in 1 year, right? If you don't have these goals, you can't reach them. And this is a truth that people, for whatever reason, don't internalize. If you do not have a goal of doing $1 million in sales, you will not get there by accident. If you don't have a goal of having $1 million in your retirement account by the age of 65, it will not happen. I mean, very, very few people can count on the lottery as their retirement program. And we ignore this stuff. We ignore it for 10 and 20 years at a time, and then suddenly turn 50 and go, oh crap, I forgot to, to retire, And then you get to be 70 and you can't retire because you didn't plan on it. So you need to have these goals. And if you have a goal that says, I will sign more people to managed services, guess what? It'll happen. If you don't have it as a goal, it simply cannot happen. So think about what your goals are for your business, not just financial, but a goal where, I was having a chat with somebody online just this morning, a goal of getting yourself out of the day-to-day operations so that you can spend less time at work, having a goal of putting a manager in place so that you don't have to do everything yourself. And if your goal is to be a sole proprietor for the rest of your life, totally cool. I 100% endorse that. But you still need a plan of how you're going to make more money with only one person. And that's completely possible. It involves, obviously, raising your rates, changing what you sell. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but you have to have a plan. Absolutely nothing is going to happen for your business without a plan, right? You can either be the pinball that gets bounced around reacting to everything in your environment, or you can choose the path you want to take and then go down it. Number 3, you need to straighten out your finances. And I don't care who you are, you will benefit from straightening out your chart of accounts. I've had several experiences this year with people that all we did, literally all we did, is open up QuickBooks, print out the chart of accounts, and then reorganize it, straighten it out, and put things into the right categories. If you don't have in your chart of accounts the cost of goods sold for hardware, software, and labor, you can't get a report about what it costs you for hardware, software, and labor, and as a result, you can't figure out whether or not you're making profit on those things. You can believe you're making profit, but you don't know that you're making profit. If you don't put your service agreements into your PSA, then you cannot do certain things. You can't figure out how much money is being spent on managed services versus break fix, versus project labor, versus block hours. You absolutely have to do this. And I swear to you, I know people who have run million-dollar businesses where they do absolutely nothing with their finances. And they make money and they are profitable, but they are also not as profitable as they could be. If you hire somebody to help you straighten out your chart of accounts, it will immediately increase the profit of your business at least 5%. I mean, that's a guarantee. I've seen it time and time and time again. And Rayanne Buccianico is one person who focuses specifically on IT consultants, but there are other people who work in this area as well. One of the things we're doing, I'm putting together a conference in June, the online conference. We're going to dedicate 3 hours of that 15 is going to be on finances. And the reason for that is it's so central to your business. It literally gets to, what do you charge per hour? Is that enough? How do you know whether or not you're making money? How do you know whether or not this is a profitable hour? One of the questions we have in our consulting business is, just for people to once in a while ask themselves, is this a profitable hour for KP Enterprises? And as simple as it sounds, it helps technicians as they go through their day make the decision about whether they're working on the right thing, right? Okay, I'm doing something that's useful, but is it profitable, right? So think about, something you may not have thought about before. Some people love money, right? So they spend all their time figuring out the finances, but they never do a cash flow analysis, and they never look at their accounts receivable. There's lots of things that if you just look at them, I swear to you, spend 3 hours on this, it will change your business, but you got to do it. Number 4, fix your self-image. And you know, I say you have a self-image whether you think so or not. But what I mean by that is we all have a comfort zone. We have a comfort zone for everything we do. We have a comfort zone for where we want to live. We have a comfort zone for the kind of people we want to work with, how much money we want to make, how much work we want to do. Many people are very comfortable working 70 hours a week. Now, step back, go back to number 1, think about your quiet time. Do you really want to work 70 hours a week, or do you just fall into a habit of that? You can reset your comfort zone. Some people have a comfort zone that says, you know what, I'm worth $50,000 a year, or maybe I'm worth $40,000. Well, guess what? Your comfort zone needs to be higher than that. You're not going to retire if you're earning $50,000 a year in 2013. You need to make a whole bunch more than that. And if you have a self-image that says you're only worth 50, you need to work on that self-image. And literally, if you need to go to a life coach or a business coach or a therapist to get over it, you need to get over it. If you don't have a vision of yourself earning $100,000 a year, you can't do it. You literally can't do it, because you will set everything in your life to point to that 50,000, and you'll reach the 50,000 consistently. And at 50,000, you will not be able to retire, right? And if it's 40,000, hey, you're free. You can do anything you want for $40,000 a year.
Karl, it's pretty interesting, and I've kind of learned Salesforce management through the School of Hard Knocks, let me tell you. They didn't have a class like that in the MBA program back in the day.
Been there, done that. Yep.
I wish they had, but Chris Bangs, my salesman, my number 1, he said it best. He said, everybody has a number. And there's a correlation to what you're saying here. This is a slightly different story, but everybody has a number. So it can be a salesman who once they hit 50,000, they're done. Once they hit 125,000, they're done. Once they hit 250, they're done. His point was well taken. Now, it can be a very large number that you're striving for. I mean, as you know, there's some serious six-figure people out there in professions and sales, but everybody has a number. Karl, it may be 350. I mean, it may be a big number, but his point was well taken. I mean, you know, definitely have a stretch goal and shoot for the moon. However, acknowledge that once, let's just roll with 350. Once you hit 350, you're going fishing. That's it.
Right. Well, and that's exactly, I mean, this is a key piece of where we're going with the whole thing today, is that you have this comfort zone, and comfort sounds like a nice cozy word, like, oh, I'm going to eat mashed potatoes because it's comfort food. Well, you know, it also keeps you back, right? You need to adjust your comfort zone with inflation. So, and you know, I've talked to Chris about this, and you know, the book Drive, you know, one of the things Daniel Pink says in Drive is, you know, that you can only motivate with people with money until they're comfortable, right? If people are comfortable with this, it's really hard to say, hey, I'll give you $1 an hour raise if you do this, this, and this. And they're like, yeah, don't care. You know, I'm doing all right. I mean, we used to have a technician, Dan. I'll never forget Dan as long as I live, because he taught me this lesson. Dan never, I don't think in 4 years he ever logged more than 39 hours in a week. He was paid enough money. I think he made at the time $17 or $18 an hour. It was enough for him that he was comfortable. And every Friday, he'd be driving back from a client. He'd call and say, hey, you know what, it's 3 o'clock. Do you mind if I kick off? I'm like, hey, you know what, you're paid by the hour. I don't care. Take all the time you want. And every week he would have one thing or another. He would schedule himself differently. He'd take an extra hour for lunch, whatever it was. He never worked 40 hours. He worked 38 or 39 hours every week, and that's all he needed to get by. And giving him $1 an hour raise to pass a Microsoft exam never motivated him to do anything. So, you know, business owners are the same way. If you think you're worth $350, you'll earn $350. If you think you're worth $100, you'll earn $100. So you have to decide, you know, exactly what you're worth. Now, number 5, and this is true to Harry's heart, is education. You must educate yourself every year, every month, every day of your life. not just because we're in a business that changes all the time, but everything else that's not in our business changes all the time. Look at your world. Look at your kids. Look at where you were 5 years ago. You didn't have what we call a cell phone today is more like a tricorder, right? It has all the knowledge of the history of humankind, but you use it to watch videos of cats, right, and argue with people on Facebook. And that's cool, but it's completely changed your life from 5 years ago. And think about the way people learn, the way you communicate with young people, the way that your young prospects and clients operate. It's all going to be different. And to be honest, the world around you, what's going on in the Middle East, you may not want to watch it every day, but you should have some idea what's going on. And the rest of the world. What is the world looking like, and where is it going, and how are you going to operate in that world as you go forward? Education is one of these things where, I once wrote an article for Relax, Focus, Succeed on where do I find inspiration. And the short answer is absolutely everywhere. Every single thing I read has the potential of giving me an idea that I can fit into some piece of my life. So commit to education, and the more focused it is on your profession, the better. But you know what? If you took a class on something else, you took a class on photography or knitting or anything else, you would find some analogies and some skills that you could use to tune up the rest of your life. So this is not an advertisement for the Pocket MBA program, but that's one example of something that will, it can dramatically improve your business, but you got to put a little energy into it. And whether it's that or just tuning up things that you find on somewhere on the internet, you should always, always, always make self-improvement a piece of your life.
Carl, I'll tell you
an
interesting education story. I can go on for hours about education, as you well know, and we enough said. It's important, but let me tell you a funny story, and it's actually an important story that women professionals face a different challenge. Now, this is more of a personal story, but I think it also relates to the workplace and being an IT pro as a woman. But hear me out on this one. So I'm talking to a friend, and she's a single mom, and she, God bless her, and she pulled herself up by her bootstraps, and she's getting a master's degree. So she's 45, 46 years old, just as up and going to improve her life. Went back to get a master's degree, got a scholarship. It's tight, because, the starving student, I have a whole lot of money. And interestingly, she shared some challenges. Now, again, this is a little more in a personal realm, but she shared some challenges about dating. And I said, what? And she said, a lot of guys are intimidated by her getting a master's degree, that there is still that sort of that male chauvinist thing. And I said, well, I think you're meeting the wrong guys. Maybe Match.com is not. How about the student union or the library?
Exactly.
But the more I thought about her honest reflections, Karl, I do think that the women listening to the phone might have different challenges than the men in our profession, and part of that could be intimidation. A woman with a PhD, whoa, I'm intimidated. So I just wanted to give a tip of the hat that I'm pro-education, but based on a recent conversation, I also want to acknowledge that I think the world views education differently if you're a man or a woman, and I just want to acknowledge that what is probably a unique challenge in a white-collar profession. So I'll stop talking now.
All righty. Well, it's also the case, that it's sort of like niching. I think dating is a lot like finding a niche market, right? It's okay to say most of the businesses in the world aren't going to hire me. Guess what? Most of the women in the world aren't going to hire me either. So, I have to focus on the people who do want what I have to offer. That's as simple as that gets. So, anyway, so let's, we're whatever. We got 10 minutes left. Let's talk about what this means in the real world. When I look at your business, if I were to be your coach today, what would I tell you to do? Well, The first thing is commit, and I used this word before. You know, people come to me and they say, I say, well, why do you need a coach? And they start by saying, well, I need to get a managed service contract. I need to redo my finances. I need to develop standard operating procedures. I need to write a service agreement. Right? They got this big, long list. And I'm like, well, excuse me, why do you need a coach? Because you know exactly what you need to do. And they say, well, I need somebody to hold me accountable. Well, you know what? It's okay to hold yourself accountable, right? We all know, whether we've accepted it or not, we know the things we need to do to be successful. We know the things that we've been told again and again and again as we go to conferences, as we read things, whether it's in our business or somewhere else. We know what we need to do, and we just have to make a decision to do them. And I want you personally to take this to heart and say, this year I'm going to stop screwing around and I'm going to do the things that I know that I need to do. And it's different for you than it is for me. But everybody on this call knows at least 5 things that you know for a fact you should be doing and you don't. And it gets back to that comfort level. It gets back to the zone of, you know I need to do this, but I don't want to take another class because on Wednesday nights I go drinking with the boys, right? I don't want to take another class because, I got something else going on. I don't want to do this because I've got an excuse and another excuse, and I got 3 more excuses lined up behind that. Well, that's fine. If you want to live in your excuses, you go right ahead, but remember that those excuses are costing you every dollar between what you earn today and what you want to earn 12 months from now. So you got a choice. You can focus on the excuses or you can focus on the goal. And if you focus on the goal, you might achieve it. And notice I said might. But if you don't focus on the goal, I 100% guarantee you won't achieve it. If you have a goal to double the size of your business, guess what? Almost every person on this call could double the size of their business in the next 12 months. But you got to focus on it. And I'll give you a very, very simple example. Here's a way that everybody on this call can earn an extra $50,000 a year. Sign up 1 new managed service client each quarter that pays you $1,000 a month. That's not a very big client, right? That's somewhere between 5 and 10 users, depending on what you charge. At $1,000 a month times 12 months is $12,000. 1 a quarter is 4 of those. That's $48,000. Plus you get a little project labor. Boom. $50,000 in revenue from 4 new clients. But here's what it means. Those can't be one-person clients. They can't be somebody without a server. They can't be somebody who's not going to sign a contract. They can't be somebody who's got 3 computers in their basement. They need to be real businesses willing to commit to you 4 clients at $1,000 a month. That is very, very attainable. Every single person on this call can do that. But you have to stop picking up nickels. You have to stop talking to people who are never going to pay you more than $300 a year. Go back to the whole thing about looking at your finances. List all of your clients. Run the report in QuickBooks. Sales, by client, detail. Sort it from highest to lowest. Every single client that paid you less than $1,000 a year, you need to take a big black marker and go draw a line and fire every one of those clients. And that's where commitment comes in. You have to believe absolutely in your heart that all of those hours that you spent serving that client are better spent looking for one of the 4 clients that's going to get you $12,000 a year, so that 1 year from now you'll have an extra $50,000 at the top line of your business. But you have to commit to that. You really have to make a hard decision, and you have to live with it. And if you're not willing to do that, that's fine. Just remember that that's a decision you made, and that you can live in that world. And whether you call it an excuse or just that you've made a decision that you don't want to earn that much money, either way is okay, but you have to take responsibility for that decision. So when I say commit, I mean absolutely. Do the quiet time thing. Set the goals. Figure out a list. Remember the list. A list of things you're going to stop doing because they don't contribute to that goal, and a list of things you're going to start doing. We waste so much time in our day The reason that Relax, Focus, Succeed is called Relax, Focus, Succeed is that you need to have quiet time and then you need to focus. And focus means you do the highest priority things every day. You don't spend time sitting around the water cooler BSing. You spend your time and your resources and your money improving your business, and you don't waste time, resources, or money. And I'm going to speed this up super quick because we got to go. But you want to be extraordinary. You want to be an amazing person. And if you haven't read Good to Great, I recommend you do so. Good is the enemy of great. And what that means is, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm good at Small Business Server. I'm good at Break Fix. I'm good at installing printer drivers. And that keeps me from being amazing and great. It keeps me from saying, you know what? I'm going to niche on one piece of software that sells for a whole bunch of money, and I can sell it into only medical offices. And in the next year, I'm going to get 7 new clients that pay me $2,000 a month. That's where being good keeps you from being great. But you have to commit to figuring out what can you be excellent at. And Harry's got a great point. Where in your life have you built up 10,000 hours towards a thing that you can now say, I'm just going to do that thing? Because I can be so great at that thing, I can be extraordinary. I can be over the top. I can be the one that eliminates the boundaries of time and space because anybody anywhere in the world will hire me to do that thing because I am the expert. You can do that.
Karl?
You can choose to do that. Yes, sir.
Quickly, because I know you do want to respect people's time, but it could come in ways you don't know. Think about this, gang, that there's always truth to humor. So I was joking with Chris the other day about what if we lost our jobs? What would we do? I mean, with the standard of living and the bills we have, what would we do? And I said, you know what? I could go be an ERP CRM consultant. Now, Karl, I have put in 10,000 hours with the Salesforce.
Yes.
Suite. I mean, I could
some other tools as well.
Yeah, there is truth to humor on that one, brother. But and then in the next breath, but you know what I said in the next breath is I said, you know what? I'd rather be a salesman for CRM and ERP and not have to do that work, and be a really code proficient salesman and make the big bucks. So, Karl, the point I'm making is that it could be a paradigm shift that leverages the opportunity that you might not have thought of. Please continue.
Right. Yeah, because there's lots of things that, again, make a list of all those things in your life where you're really good at it and you enjoy it and you can make money at it. And it might not be what you're doing today. And finally, focus. And by focus, I mean every day, where do you stop doing the things that you should be doing and get distracted by something else? Before this call, Jenny Hallmark says, hey, make sure that you have your pop-ups disabled for Outlook and your instant messaging and all this other stuff. And I said, hey, guess what? I don't have any of that stuff enabled. Nothing ever pops up on my screen. In fact, I never answer my phone. My phone is on Do Not Disturb 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't answer the damn thing, right? Because the chances are that that phone call is going to be the most important thing I need to do right now at this moment of my life are very close to zero. So if I don't expect a call from you, don't expect me to answer the phone, right? That's just the way it works. There's so many times in our life where we make excuses once again. This is why I have to be interrupt-driven. This is why I have to be, operate this way. Well, you don't. You need to figure out how can you focus specifically on your goal, eliminate the things in your business that don't approach the goal that you've set for yourself, and find new things that do help you approach that. So I always thought about I want to make a sign for my office that says, our success depends on your execution, right? Execution requires commitment, focus, and discipline. It means that you are going to absolutely commit to things that you know you need to do. You're going to focus. You're going to cut out the things that don't contribute. You're going to focus on the things that do contribute, and you're going to do it every day. And the hardest piece of this is discipline. It's just like exercise. I am committed to exercise for the first 15 minutes I do it, every time I do it. But as soon as it's over, I think, wow, man, I should do this all the time. 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh, crap, man, I'm sore and I'm never going to do that again, right? And it's hard. I do yoga 2 or 3 times a week, and it's the hot, Bikram yoga. And sometimes it's hard to imagine myself going in that room and doing that again. But, discipline means you got to go do that. because it contributes to some piece of your life that you want to improve or some piece of your business. So if you haven't downloaded the notes, go to smallbizthoughts.com/events/makeover.pdf and download that and look at it. All of this is the big picture. We would need to look at the big picture and realize, wow, there's a different perspective. I've been focused in on these tiny little points, and I need a much bigger picture of where we are. And that's why I want you to go big in 2013. And by go big, I mean pick a goal. Pick a goal that's huge, that's out there. Because you know how you can do it? You can do it by focusing completely on that goal. Oh, I would like to encourage you, this is not a big commercial, but it looks like it. I encourage you to join me for some education. The SMB Online Conference is June 25th, 26th, 27th. It's online. It's 5 hours a day for 3 days. Right now we have a sale going on. One of our big speakers is John Armato. He consults with literally Coca-Cola and Fortune 100 companies, and he's got an amazing presentation called Think Inside the Box, and he's just one of 15 hours of education. If you go to smbonlineconference.com and pick either the live recordings, the live plus recordings, or the special bundle that includes the recordings from last year, you can save $100. Right now, this is good through February 15th, 2013. So if you're listening to a recording of this webinar, the code is only good until February 15th. SMBOC 100 gets you that $100 discount. So I encourage you to join me at the SMB Online Conference. What you'll find there is education, inspiration, a huge focus on not just the education you need, the finances you need, but a lot of motivation and a lot of different perspective on things. And our title this year is Rebooting Your Business, and it's all about how you can do this. And let me just finish by saying that the commitment that I'm talking about is literally get up tomorrow and look at your IT business and say, how can I take a hatchet to this business and literally cut out every single thing that doesn't help me double the size of my business or whatever your goal is. I mean, honest to God, everybody can earn $50,000 or $100,000 more, but you have to focus on it, and you have to stop making excuses, and you have to cut out the stuff that doesn't contribute to that. And it's okay to say, you know what, I love my clients, but I can no longer serve clients who hire me 1 or 2 or 3 hours a month. I need clients who are going to commit to me, and if you do that, you will be successful. But it means you have to be able to say no when somebody hands you a dollar bill, because you're looking for the person who's going to hand you 100. And I know that's hard, but you absolutely can do it, and you have to commit to it. And many, many, many people have done it, and you can too. All righty, Harry. I don't know if you want to hang on for questions, or what do you want to do?
Hey, Karl.
Well, let me bring it home. Let's do it. Yeah, Jenny.
Yeah. Really quick, one more time, can you just leave the screen up for the URL? I've got a lot of people asking for it one more time.
All righty. Let me see the fastest way to get there.
Sure. And here's what I'd recommend in the spirit of time, because I know how these go. We can go many hours. Here's what I'd like to suggest is, folks, ask your questions on chat, because they do appear in the transcripts. And we'll get that over to Karl, and Karl can follow up with you on those, or turn it into, Karl, probably a good blog. Heck, 30 questions with Karl. But I might recommend.
Yeah, look at my blog as well, because the smallbizthoughts.com, there's a blog there, and I'll be happy to address answers to the questions there.
Absolutely. I'm kind of thinking we'll stay in the spirit of the hour commitment that we promised. Folks, be sure to go to smb150.com and vote for the influencer of your choice. Please do. Take a moment right now and go to smb150.com. Karl and I are judges, and it's just great community fun. We got a spring show coming up in early May at Microsoft Redmond, and Karl's event follows shortly thereafter online, which, by the way, is just really cool. I listened to it last year while doing some traveling. So maybe we are truly at the top of the hour. let's call it a day. Get your questions up on chat real quick. Jenny, leave the session open for just a few minutes to gather all the chat questions, and I will bid adieu. Have a great day, folks.
Thanks for having me.